YouTube, so let's wait for a while, and then I will start. Okay, now we are live. Okay, so I will stop. Sharing your screen now. I will share my screen for a while, and then you will be able to share your screen once again. Sorry. Okay. I hope you see my screen, right?
All good.
Yeah. Okay. So I think it's time. So just a minute. Okay. I'll get a little bit your time. So hello everybody. I'm deeply convinced that this speaker has wealth of knowledge to offer, and there is much to be learned from her. Actually, I was waiting for two speakers, but I hope in next minutes our speaker will give information about the other speaker. But so let's kick things off with our learning journey, and welcome to 8th meetup organized by Buck Power BI Meetup Group in 2023. So today's speaker, I think we are going to have only Elena Moore. Elena Moore will be talking about, we will focus on data integration empowering One Lake. And I'm very privileged to have Elena as a speaker. And I strongly believe that she will share her valuable expertise and also experience with us. So
thanks for having me.
Yeah, okay, thank you. So for those interested, you can find recordings of our past webinars on my YouTube channel. And sorry, following our meetup, the recording link of today's meetup will be also shared with our registered members of our Buck Power BI Meetup group. So we have also a 15-minute Q&A session. You can ask your question during this webinar, or you can write your questions in the chat. So once again, this meetup is live streaming and is recorded and will be shared. So also, I would like to introduce you our next speakers who are coming from different parts of the world. For example, we'll have Milton Balleker from Turkey, from Rice Technology Company, and also we'll have Yana Berkovic from Microsoft from USA, and Timura Augushovo from USA, also from JAP Gemini Company. Also, I'd like to give you a little bit information about the books for Azerbaijani members of my meetup group. These are the books that I have translated from English into Azerbaijani language. The first one is Financial Modeling in Excel for Dummies. The author of this book is Daniel Steinfeld. And the second one is Master Your Data in Power BI and Power Query. In Excel. Authors of this book are Ken Pauls and Miguel Escobar, who's also worked for Microsoft, if I'm not mistaken. So these books are going to be available as of 15th of October, and the necessary information also will be sharing with you in next days. So this is that's all from me now. So I'm confident that in reaching the session awaits you. So I would like to deliver the stage to Elena Moore, and Elena, the stage is yours. So I'm stopping sharing. I stop sharing my screen so you can share your screen and go on.
I think you should be able to see my screen now. Can
exactly,
you?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. I see your screen.
Wonderful.
Please, thank you.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me, Ilgar. Thank you for inviting me. I have no idea how you got my contacts. Actually, I'm joking. I do know how you got my contacts. And I first time met Ilgar when I was delivering something about Power BI, and I believe it was about the performance optimization and how to unveil the whole chain of events. And I'm honored to be invited here. I have been all around Microsoft for a couple of the times already. I have started my journey in Microsoft in 2013 for the first time as a platform engineer, but I have been always in love with the data science, and I have a diploma in applied mathematics, and specifically about how we apply what we learn, and all these technologies that pop up, all these certifications that we earn, how we actually apply those in real life. This is my true love here. And for today's agenda, I was planning to deliver this topic with my co-trainer, with Christian Deokasign. I believe that unfortunately she got sick today, and I ask you for understanding for whatever stuff I don't know. I will always tell you that I don't know, but I will still try to cover everything without her as well. Hope you will be lucky enough to have Kristen for the future talks here about the Power BI. So my main knowledge area is about the data integration. This is what I love, because whatever you do in your company, at the end of the day, you will end up working with the data. That's important. And I see that some of you have enabled a closed captioning. That's a good thing. Thank you so much. You're probably here. I have an accent. I hope it's not too thick of one, but I know that when I talk about the stuff that I truly love, I tend to speed up, and feel free to just ping it in the chat and say, Lena, slow down. I'll be happy to slow down for you. You can use chat box for your questions. Ilgar will help me monitor in the chat and see if there are any questions. Some things he will respond to. Some things I will also wait in the chat messaging. If you have any questions afterwards, first, I will post all the URLs that I used to prepare this presentation for you to do some exercises from open available from Microsoft at Microsoft Learn. And I hope you'll find this talk insightful. So today's agenda. We have Microsoft Fabric overview. Ilgar has asked me to focus on Fabric a little bit. And even though I'm more of an expert on data science, I have tried to bring this in, what this Fabric will mean for different roles. I want all of us to remember that the Microsoft Fabric is still in preview. Feel free to play with it, feel free to experiment, feel free to try and implement it in different scenarios, but please do not put it into production, as Microsoft does not encourage anyone to. So the preview mode is there for a reason. We're still testing, we're still experimenting on our side. We just want you to start experimenting a little bit more on your end before it becomes live. So before the Microsoft Fabric is general availability, do not trust it with your production workloads, please. So the first is Microsoft Fabric overview. We'll cover up a little bit of the vocabulary. What are we having there? What's the data lake? What's the one lake? What's the direct lake? Why there are so many lakes? Why everything is a lake? For surprisingly, how to get started with lake houses and why do we need them? I will try and cover a little bit about the direct lake, and any data engineers here in the room already know that we are going to talk about I'm not gonna say it, but yeah, we are going to talk about the Parquet format tables and how it will look like for a data analyst. And at the end, I could not skip my favorite topic about the data science, how you can train the models on the Azure, different outlooks, and how Fabric makes it a little bit easier and gives you a little bit more flexibility. So hope you're happy with the plan. I'm not sure if Zoom has some reactions, but if it does, give me some reaction. I believe there was something like a thumbs up. Do we have it?
I think yes, we have.
Yeah, I am trying to find mine. Oh yeah, I see. I see some reactions. Thank you so much. Thank you. Awesome. Yeah, got it. Thanks, Ilgar. So why don't we just start? Ilgar, I have 1 hour, right? I think I have.
Yeah, we have 55 minutes or 60 minutes, yes. And then we'll have 15 minutes for question and answer Q&A session.
Well, I think I overloaded my
yeah.
presentation. I think I overloaded it, so I'll try to stick to the timer. Okay, so Microsoft Fabric, first of all, if some of you haven't heard about this, is the end-to-end analytics platform that will provide the single integrated environment for data professionals mostly and the business to collaborate on some data projects. So basically what we're trying to do here is to eliminate this, hey business, can you give us this information? Hey, data scientists, why do you need this? I'm not going to share anything because it's on premises and one part is here, another part is here. Why would I go into this trouble? So Fabric will provide the set of integrated services that will enable you to ingest, store, process, and analyze your data in a single environment. In a single integrated environment to collaborate. So the Microsoft Fabric will provide tools for both citizen and professional data practitioners. We have learned that a lot of the tools that target citizen data practitioners, citizen data scientists, it has a lot of response from audience just because it becomes too not too hard. It is time consuming to learn something new, right? It's time consuming to learn how to code in Python, and it's time consuming to learn the data science. Because anyone who comes into Microsoft courses for 3 days, for 3-day courses, and expect to be a data scientist at the end of the day, set themselves to a disappointment. It's impossible. You will never learn everything in 3 days. It will be still citizen data scientists. So what we're targeting here is for you to be jumpstart earlier and for you to easier grasp anything that can be automated, not to dive in, just automate it. And I think this is a cool idea because you can start a little bit earlier and then dig deeper while you're already working in the area. So Fabric includes a list of services: data engineering, data integration, data warehousing, real-time analytics, data science, business intelligence, boom. This hour we will dedicate to introduce the Fabric platform, discuss who Fabric is for, and explore Fabric services. At the end of the session, Ilgar, hold me accountable. I will share all the URLs that I used to prepare this presentation. And they're all publicly available by Microsoft on Microsoft Learn. And you will also have the access to our GitHub Open Labs. I'm not sure if you will need to have some resources for this or be an admin in your resources, but at least you will have the step-by-step guides how to work with different things and such. All right, OneLake. Scalable analytics can be complex, fragmented, and very expensive. And with Microsoft Fabric, you don't have to spend all of your time combining various services. And the first step in this direction of combining different services was done by Power BI, when we have combined very dispersed data sources in one view, in one data model in Power BI. So with Microsoft Fabric, you don't have to spend all of your time combining, just like you didn't have to spend all the time in Power BI combining everything. Instead, you can use a single product that is easy to understand, set up, create, and manage. Fabric offers a persona-optimized experience and tools in an integrated user interface. And in addition to simple shared user experience, Fabric is the somewhat what we call unified software as a service solution, SaaS foundation, basically. So the idea here is that all of your data is stored in a single open format in one lake. One lake is accessible by all of the analytics engineers in the platform. So Fabric offers scalability for cost effectiveness, accessibility from anywhere with the internet connection, and continuous updates and maintenance provided by Microsoft because it's software as a service. So comparing to the Power BI, where you had data living in different spaces and different formats and all, in one lake, we're thinking to bring as much of the stuff as possible into this one lake. Of course, you cannot bring everything, right? We will still have the shortcuts, just like in Power BI, to refer to the original data storages. So One Lake is the Fabric's lake-centric architecture that will provide a single integrated environment for data professionals and the business to collaborate on your data projects. Fabric's One Lake architecture facilitates collaboration between data team members and saves time by eliminating some of the need to move and copy data between different systems and teams. We have, I promised a little bit of the vocabulary. We have the term which is called one copy. This is the key component of One Lake that will allow you to read data from a single copy without moving or duplicating the data. And actually, why One Lake? Because this One Lake is built on the data lake functionality, Azure Data Lake. And I think I'm running a little bit ahead of myself. Hold this thought and I'll come back to this later. So in very easy words, think of the One Lake as the OneDrive for data. One Lake will combine storage locations across different regions and different clouds into a single logical lake without moving or duplicating the data. And similar to how Office applications, I know Ilgar has a lot of the certifications in Office area here as well. So this example is mostly for him. So imagine similar to how Office applications are pre-wired to use your organizational OneDrive for autosave and stuff, all the compute workloads in Fabric will be pre-configured to work with the One Lake. So it's Fabric's data warehousing, data engineering, data integration, real-time analytics, and Power BI all will use One Lake as their native store without needing any extra configuration. So what's the secret here? The secret here is that the One Lake, and we're coming back to my attempt to run ahead of myself. The One Lake is built on top of Azure Data Lake Storage, ADLS. And the data can be stored in any formats, including Delta, Parquet, CSV, JSON, and more and more and more. So what this means is that all of the compute engines in Fabric will automatically store the data in One Lake. Data that is stored in One Lake then directly accessible by all of the compute engines without needing to be moved or copied. So for the tabular data, the analytical engines in Fabric will write data in Delta Parquet format, and all engines will interact with the format seamlessly. And probably see in the tail here, that's my dear friend Marvel. He knows a lot of Azure. He'll be too stubborn to actually talk about it, but he'll sit on my lap, and occasionally you will see a tail here again. So, right, Marvel? You're a star now. Okay. So one important feature of One Lake is the ability to create shortcuts. The shortcuts will be embedded references within One Lake that will point to other files or storage locations. Shortcuts will allow you to quickly source your existing cloud data without having to copy it, and will enable the Fabric experiences to derive data from the same source to always be in sync. What do I have here? So thinking about the Fabric experiences, Fabric will offer a set of analytics experiences that are designed to accomplish specific tasks and work together seamlessly. So the Fabric experiences will include, and I'm going through this list, and the first goes the data warehousing. Probably a lot of you have heard about the Synapse data warehouse. So basically, Fabric will have it inside. So we're talking about the integration for different data roles, right? Since we're talking about the data engineering specifically here, we will of course have the warehousing, and we will of course have some movements like integration. So most likely we'll see the data factory and so on and so on. So my goal while walking through this list of theoretical what we have here is to map this to a specific tool that we have in Microsoft. In Microsoft, actually, I'm not speaking of on behalf of the Microsoft here. It's Elena Moore speaking. I'm not representing Microsoft here because I never asked to be on this conference, but yeah, I should give up on saying we at Microsoft. So in Microsoft, there is a rule of not duplicating the work, because Microsoft is very careful about reusing something that is working nice already. And what we see here is the same thing. We see the new information about the Fabric, right? And in this Fabric, Microsoft decided to use the solutions that already are very popular and helping out its clients. So the first one goes the data warehousing, and behind it will stay the Synapse data warehouse. Data warehousing with industry-leading SQL performance and scale to support the data use. What is meant behind the data warehousing? There will be Synapse, and if you know how to work with it, awesome. If not, you'll still have a time to learn and how it works out. In the data engineering, it will be the Synapse data engineering. Data engineer with Spark platform for data transformation at scale. When you brought in the data into your lake, you will need to transform it for the further analysis. And you being part of the Power BI meetup group, you know how transformation is important, and transformation will always need the resources. And sometimes the distributed offering of transforming your data is very nice. So the data engineering here to bring the Spark capabilities to Azure. What's next? The third one is data integration. And this is where we have the data factory. That's where the data integration combining Power Query with the scale of Azure Data Factory will happen to move and transform your data. Next one is data science. There will be the Synapse data science. It's data science with Azure Machine Learning. Azure Machine Learning is a different resource on Azure where you can train your model. And it's integrated into the Synapse now, and the Synapse will be available through the Fabric. I see that there are 2 questions. Let me finish here, and then I read the questions, and maybe I'll respond to them right away if it belongs here. What's next? Real-time analytics. Real-time analytics to query and analyze large volumes of data in real time and give the prediction. And last, the business intelligence. That's you. That's Power BI. It's a business intelligence for translating data to decisions. Fabric will provide the comprehensive data analysis solution, analytics solution, by unifying all of these experiences on a single platform. It's also, I have a little bit of the background in security and data governance, so I cannot, I just have to mention this. Fabrics OneLake will be centrally governed and open for collaboration. We used to have the purview for this particular role where you can request the permission for the particular data, and more important, to get familiar about what data you have in your organization, even if you're sitting in Seattle and another person who provides this data is in London and you've never met, you can still discover that data and request the access to this, and then with proper justifications you will be able to access it. So it removes a lot of the bureaucracy and still creates the audit trace and everything. So I'm not sure what will be the future purview, but it feels to me that the same practices will come to the Fabric. Let me take a look at the questions. How does OneLake handle diverse data formats and sources to ensure the seamless integration? I am going to talk about this in the future slide, so I'll hold on to this question. What role does data integration play in enhancing the accuracy and reliability of data within OneLake? So it's a cool question. Data integration plays a big role in the data accuracy, because if you bring in the data, it just removes so many different layers between the entry of the data into your system and coming to the data analyst. So most likely you will have more precise set of the data for you to work with that will not be lost somewhere in the middle when we are not paying attention to the last year data and so on and so on. So I hope I answered your question. If not, you can always ask it after, and I already promised Ilgar that I'll answer all of the questions if I don't have time here later in asynchronous way. Okay. Where was I? Data can be stored in any format. I'm going to talk about this. Oh, actually, why don't I just talk about it here? Embedded references, low to no code concepts. Let me think about this. Yeah, why do I have it here? Yeah, just because the OneLake is built on top of the Azure Data Lake service, you can store your data in any format. It can be any unstructured data, and in majority of the cases, when we talk about the tabular data, it will be stored in a Parquet format, and yeah, it's unstructured data. You can store anything there. I probably don't understand how does OneLake handles diverse data formats. It can store anything. Compute engine store data in OneLake. I think I covered it. And data in OneLake directly accessible with no need to copy or move. That's the definition of it. And shortcuts, it's when you don't need to copy the data and you don't want to move the data from its source. Like maybe you have to comply with some security compliance frameworks like FedRAMP or HIPAA, and it dictates you to keep the data in a particular region or on a particular servers or in a particular cloud even. You can just create a shortcut, and your system, your OneLake, will know where the data is stored and still be available to collaborate and using your data analytics workloads. I didn't count the time nicely, so I'll just jot down through the stuff. Before you can explore the end-to-end capabilities of Microsoft Fabric, it must be enabled for your organization. To enable it, you have to be a Fabric admin, Power Platform admin, or Microsoft 365 admin. Where would you find how to enable it? You would navigate to the admin portal, and in the admin portal, you will have the tenant settings. This is where you will have the Microsoft Fabric still in preview. As soon as the preview is off, as soon as this part of the title is out, it means that we hit the general availability, and you can use this in your production workloads. While it's in preview, feel free to experiment, and you will need to enable it right here, this toggle. So if you have this admin privileges, you access the admin center from the settings menu in the upper right corner of the Power BI service. And from here, you enable Fabric in the tenant settings. Admins can make Fabric available to either the entire organization or a specific group of users who can be organized based on their Microsoft 365 or Azure Active Directory security groups. And you can also, as an admin, delegate the ability to enable Fabric to other users at the capacity levels. You see, here you can delegate settings to other admins. All Fabric items, lakehouses, notebooks, pipelines will be stored in one lake and will be accessed by via Fabric workspaces. Workspaces must be in premium capacity to use Fabric. And if you don't have the access to premium capacity, you aren't able to use Fabric. You can select the trial in the premium capacity settings section for the workspace settings. And and to enable premium capacity for your workspace, I think I just created a loop for myself. You will be able to select the trial and try this premium capacity stuff and Fabric itself. And I was talking about the workspace settings, and if we're switching to the to our workspace itself, not the settings, you can create resources in Fabric by using the same create button, create mechanism. All of this will be able to happen after you've created your Fabric enabled workspace. And this is when you can start creating resources in Fabric. You can create resources using the create menu and of the Power BI service. I hope all of this is already familiar to you. It's just adding new stuff to very much familiar places for you, because I'm sure you be in a Power BI group, you know what the Power BI workspace is, what the service is, and just where to find the workspace settings. I just rely on you that you know where to find those. Okay, I mentioned the Lakehouse a couple of the times. The foundation of Microsoft Fabric is the Lakehouse, which is built on top of the OneLake. So OneLake is a scalable storage layer, and it will use the Apache Spark and SQL Compute engines to build data processing. The Lakehouse is a unified platform that combines flexible and scalable storage of the data lake and the ability to query and analyze data in a data warehouse. So you might be thinking about the scenario when your company been using the data warehouse to store some structured data from its transactional systems, like order history, inventory levels, and customer information. Believe me, this scenario is not uncommon, and I hope that you're finding your scenarios here in this example as well. You might also collect the unstructured data from social media, website logs, and third-party sources that will be difficult to manage and analyze using the existing data warehouse infrastructure. So the Lakehouse in Microsoft Fabric can help address scenarios like this by just providing a scalable and flexible data store for files and tables that you can query using SQL. So maybe you remember that the main difference between the Azure Data Lake Generation 2 and the blob storage is that you can query the data directly at the data lake. So we inherit this ability in the Lakehouses as well. All right. So the Lakehouse presents as a database, and it's built on top of the data lake using the Delta format tables. So the lake houses will combine the SQL-based analytical capabilities of your relational data warehouse and the flexibility and the scalability of the data lake. So we have the data warehouse where you have the relational schema modeling, where you have the SQL-based querying, where you have the some basis for reporting and analytics, because we love working with tables in analytics. And you most likely know that this is the star schema already. I'm being nostalgic. I have not taught the Power BI course in quite some time, so I'm very nostalgic seeing the star schema. And the data lake, it's where you have the scalable and distributed file storage, flexible schema semantics, and big data technology compatibility. So basically, you have unstructured meeting structured, and all of this works nicely together. So now that you understand the core capabilities of Microsoft Fabric Lakehouse, let's explore how to work with one. You can create and configure a new lakehouse in the data engineering workload, and each lakehouse will produce 3 named items in a Fabric-enabled workspace. That's my upper left picture. Lakehouse, I'm looking at the types here. The lakehouse is the lakehouse storage and metadata, where you interact with files, folders, and table data. Datasets, the default one, will be the automatically created data model based on the tables in the lakehouse. So the Power BI reports can be built from this dataset. And the SQL endpoint is the read-only SQL endpoint through which you can connect and query the data with the T-SQL or Transact SQL. You can work with the data in the lakehouse in 2 modes, and I'm switching to this corner. There will be the lakehouse that will enable you to add and interact with the tables, files, folders in the lakehouse, and the SQL endpoint that will help you to use the SQL to query the tables in the lakehouse and manage its relational data model. So basically, how you would choose one, you will find a drop-down menu to work with the lakehouse or SQL endpoint. All right. I talked about our shortcuts, and as soon as you have created your lakehouse, you can do a couple of the operations like upload data flows, notebooks, data factory pipelines. There are basically many ways to load data into the Fabric Lakehouse. If you do the uploads, it's upload local files or folders into the Lakehouse. You can then explore and process the files data and load the results into tables. If we're talking about the data flows, you can import and transform data from a range of sources using the Power Query online and load it directly into the table in the Lakehouse. Notebooks, if you're data scientist, you're very much familiar with this. You can use notebooks in Fabric to ingest and transform data and load it into tables or files in the Lakehouse. And of course, the last one is the data factory pipelines to orchestrate your data movements, copy data and orchestrate data processing activities, loading the results into table or files in the Lakehouse. Actually, let me come back to these data flows. I'm sure that a lot of you have used the data flows. Can you give me a thumbs up or something to just show that you worked with that?
In my case, I have not used directly, but I have seen a lot. I mean, I have the necessary information about it. And in my company, I think people are using these data flows. Very good. Thank you. So the data flow basically is a very good idea to use. If you haven't yet, take a look at the Guy in a Cube YouTube channel where he explains the data flows. It may feel a little bit messy at the very beginning, but the data flows is a good idea when you have dispersed data analytics solutions, different Power BI
reports, and where you have to create some entity like a date table that will be inherited by others. So this data flow is a very good idea to create such entities and then spread it out into the different reports as a single source of truth. So that's one thing. But another thing to remember about data flows is that the result is always in the cloud. Data flow lives in the cloud and will always write its results into the cloud. Where does it write its results? In Azure Cloud. It always writes the results into the Azure Data Lake storage. And it was very easy to integrate the data flows into the Fabric because Fabric is built on ADLS. So this is why the data flows will shine with the new Fabric. And I truly believe in this. If you haven't yet, take a look at the data flows. It just creates a new level of working with your data between the data source and your report, and just eliminate some of the headache of fixing different dispersed source of truth, creating one central one. Shortcuts, I just brought it to this slide to make sure that you remember about this word, working with the Fabric. It will enable you to integrate data into your lakehouse while keeping it stored in external storage. All right. I actually am not going to stop for too long and explore and transform data in a lakehouse. I will share the URL with you, and I will do this just to make sure that we have enough time to stop at the data science for a little bit longer. Just remember that you can use your favorite tools, Apache Spark, notebooks, Spark job definitions, work with it through the SQL endpoints, work with it through the data flows, and work with it with the data factory pipelines. You have very powerful tools to explore and transform data in the lakehouse. I'm not going to stop at this for too long. Delta Lake was planned for Kristen to go through. I don't work with Delta Lakes way too often, but I still think this is very important to cover the basics of the Delta Lake when talking about some kind of the solution like Fabric, where we're speaking about bringing all the different types of the data into one place. So the Delta Lake, oh, right, Marvel. Delta Lake is an open source storage layer that will add relational database, right? All right, just look there. Look there. No? Okay. No. He decided to leave. Didn't go through the test by fame, you know. So the Delta Lake is an open source storage layer that will add the relational database semantics to your Spark-based data lake processing. And tables in Microsoft Fabric Lakehouses are Delta tables. So, which is signified by the triangular Delta icon on tables. I'm not. It's if you can see this in the lower right corner, when you see this triangle, it means that we are speaking about the Delta table. So Delta table schema abstractions over the data files that will be stored in a Delta format. So for each table, the Lakehouse will store a folder containing Parquet data files and a Delta log folder in which transaction details will be logged in a JSON format, and then you'll just combine it and to figure out how the data actually looks like. I will share this in the chat. This is very important because I'm not an expert in Delta Lakes, but it's very important for you to know about those in Fabric. So the benefits of Delta Lake will be relational tables that will support querying and data modifications. Basically runs on Apache Spark, and you can store data in Delta Lake tables that will support CRUD, C-R-U-D, create, read, update, and delete operations. In other words, you can select, insert, update, and delete rows of data in the same way you would in relational database system. Support for ACID transactions. It's relational databases that will be designed to support transactional data modifications that provide atomicity. Transactions will be complete as a single unit of work. Consistency. I'm just going through the ACID word. Consistency. Transactions will leave the database in a consistent state. Isolation. Transactions can't interfere with one another, and durability. When transaction completes, the changes it made will be persisted. So all of this create the ACID transactions. Data versioning and time travel. I love the time travel specifically. I think it's easy with the data versioning. Just because all transactions are logged in the transaction log, you can track multiple versions of each table row and even use the time travel feature to retrieve a previous version of a row in the query. So time travel, you're basically returning to the previous state. Support for batch and streaming data, standard formats, and interoperability. The underlying data for Delta tables is stored in the Parquet format, which is commonly used in data lake ingestion pipelines. And additionally, you can use the SQL endpoint for the Microsoft Fabric Lakehouse to query these Delta tables in SQL. Why would I talk about this? Just to make sure that you don't be scared when you see the Dirac lake and the Delta lake and all this stuff, and the Delta table right here on the schema. So what all this means to us? Let's say you're a data analyst. You have multiple ways of bringing, coming to your data and work with this data. So you can use the direct query, right? You don't want to copy the big data into the Power BI service. It's too much of the headache. You're hitting too many limits. You're also responsible to keep the data secure and all of this. Why don't we just use the direct query? It will show you the real time. It's still slow kind of, but you can work with it. You can use the direct query to go directly to the lake house or warehouse that you have of your choice. And when you do this, what you will have, you will work with the one lake, you will work with the Parquet files, you will work with whatever you need in the one lake. If you want to think about the different approach, it will increase your it will increase the productivity of your the performance of your report. It will be faster, but still not real time. You can copy tables. You can still import the data into the Power BI desktop, into your service, and create a data set, and just move as usual with creating your reports. Okay, we can do the direct query, we can do the import, and in Power BI specifically, what we will have more is to use the direct lake. And it says it's perfect because it will be fast and real time. So the direct lake will use these Delta tables and work in the one lake just perfect. And this is one of the biggest changes for the Power BI that I see here. I hope you will enjoy it. Okay, I'll stop here and just take a look at the time. 10:49 my time. Reminder, I sit in Seattle. It's still morning for me. Thank you everyone for joining at this late hour. And what I wanted to, I'm not done yet, Ilgar. We're still coming to my favorite topic, is data science. I brought this in, maybe not that related to the Microsoft Fabric. It still is, but my goal as a data science practitioner and a trainer here, if you're ever interested in the certification DP100, you'll probably see my face preparing you for the exam and telling you about all the pre-recorded sessions on the Microsoft Learn. But my goal here as a data scientist is to bring awareness to as many people as I can what the data science process is. Because even today, or even earlier today, there was a question, what's the difference between the data analyst and data scientist? not telling all the secrets who asked this, but yeah, data science process is shifting to the DevOps a little bit more. And I really want you to know it's not that complex, but it also not that easy. And with Microsoft Fabric, it brings you 3 steps closer of doing the data scientist workloads and getting insights from your data than a year ago. So what I prepare here is to for data scientists how to understand the data science process, train models with notebooks and Microsoft Fabric, and track models training metric with MLflow and experiments. The goal of this section is in 10 minutes to give you enough information for you to be able to search through and filter through, oh, this is a good resource and it's trustful information, trustworthy information, and that resource is outdated and something like this. So for you to apply some judgment in here as well. So first of all, the common way to extract insights from data is to visualize our data, right? So whenever you have complex data sets, you may want to dive deeper and try to find patterns in the data. And as a data scientist, you can train machine learning models to find patterns in your data. Any discussion, I will be in the middle of any discussion about data science, machine learning, AI, and stuff. And most likely, at least once in a lifetime, you'll hear this implication of, oh my God, the artificial intelligence will win over the humankind and some kind of this. I don't want to dive into that yet. There are negative implications that I hear around, but I want to say that big companies like Microsoft, they have a positive outlook on how this can help us actually live our life in the modern world. And there are many different types of the solutions that already exist, and it's really hard to imagine our life without it. So for example, the main goal of the data science project is to save the biological hours, automate whatever we can automate, mimic human behavior. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's really not that good. And we do have some literature available, like The Future Computed, which is a free PDF read created by Microsoft people, by Brad Smith and Harry Shum, if I'm not mistaken. Just around the responsible AI. I can talk about this for weeks, so I have to be very careful not falling into the rabbit holes. There are 4 main types of the data science project. First one is the classification. The classification is usually about putting something into the different buckets. Will this person likely leave our company or not? Will this person be a good fit or not? Is this something good behavior or bad behavior? What kind of flags? Is it normal or not? Etc. etc. So in medical institution, it can be something like, is this the tumor malignant or benign? Is it something bad and we need to go through additional tests, or it's okay and we can just ignore it? That's classification. Second is regression, where we are predicting the numerical value. Basically, classification can be numerical values, but they will be discrete: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, true, false, green, yellow, black, blue, I don't know. All of this, malignant or benign. The regression here is the infinite numbers, 1.3, 15, it's infinite number. We always predict numbers based on numbers. How much your house will cost if it has so many bathrooms and so many this square footage, and it's built at that particular year. How much your taxi ride will cost, comparing to knowing how long the drive will take, what is the car is taking you, how many others are requesting the same ride, what is the ride in kilometers or in miles, and so on and so on. That's regression. In most cases, it's linear regression, but it's still regression. linear or not, it will be dictated by this curve. If it's linear, it's linear. If it's not, it's not. Clustering, it's when we don't know the outcome of examples of what to think about, but we say, oh, this will behave somewhat similarly. And clustering is mostly used in the target marketing. I know this sounds like something from evil, but for me specifically. But yeah, the target marketing, they use the clustering mechanism in most cases. And last one, forecast, time series. It's the same regression, but over time. Stock prices, we already using this in there. And your forecast, the time series in Power BI, they actually use one of these regression over time mechanisms to talk about. So data science is around us. We need to understand what it is and how it's dealt with. And I already said that it comes closer to the DevOps CI/CD kind of approach. I'm actually happy to see that Microsoft has shifted the documentation from the first step in the data science project of being, oh, get the data. No, we're not getting the data before we know the question we are trying to answer, because it's too much data. And I know that sometimes in real time, we already have the data, and then we have the question, what can we do with that? It's still the question, what can we do with that? So the data science project will always be an iterative one. First, you need to define the problem, then get the data, then prepare the data, train the model, and generate the insights. There is a last step that we're monitoring, and I will add this step in the last slide of this in this presentation. I'm sorry, I thought that Marvel is destroying my house, but now he's just destroying his toy. So across all of these stages, we have multiple solutions to train the model. You still, what do you like better, R or Python? Are we going to fight? Oh my God. I can give you the response on this, and most likely you will not like it. So in the CI/CD process, we need to track something, the metric, how closely to the raw data our prediction falls. And previously, if you were to train your model in Azure, you would still call out to the MLflow, which is the open source data, the open source library for you to manage your models and version your models and compare the new version of the model to the previous one, compare the hyperparameters and so on and so on, track everything. So MLflow usually would be a separate library for you to install and use in your Azure machine learning tool directly. So now you don't need to install it. It exists in the Fabric naturally. It's already there. Just need to call out for this. And here I have already added the monitoring. So my whole idea, why at all am I talking about the data science here? And I know that Ilgar is moving into that direction in data science. This is also a special gift here. In Azure, you can train your model at whatever freedom level you are comfortable with. If you are someone as a pro data scientist, you write everything in code, and Python is more represented in Azure. So if you want to write all the code by yourself, notebooks. You want to use notebooks in the Azure machine learning? Good. You want to use the Jupyter notebooks in the Databricks? Okay. You want to use the notebooks in Microsoft Fabric and that platform and Tenet? Perfect. You just have it there, everything in the same place. If you're not that comfortable with the code, okay, just use our designer. Some of the blocks are pre-written for you. You don't have to write a single line of code, and you create an outline, the full process of how we train and test our algorithms and all of that. Good. If you, this is a very good step in for someone who is a beginner data scientist to try out and get your hands dirty in the project of how you train the model, how you deploy the model, and all of this, how you package it. But also, if you're a pro data scientist and you just find yourself in a very heated conversation and you need to bring something together really quickly, like to prove your point, to test the hypothesis, to understand, do you need to invest all this time into still training this model? Design is a good choice. But the main star of the show here is the automated machine learning. Automated machine learning takes every task from you, other than get the data, bring the data to me. I will package everything. I will train the model. I will compare the different models for you. And I even give you the logs to monitor it. But okay, I will just keep it here. Automated machine learning will do everything for you. And if you're working in the Azure machine learning resource in Azure, you still have to get the data, package the data set, and bring it to it. And automated machine learning will even prepare your data, fill in the gaps and all of these things. I'm not going to dive into here. But with Fabric and with Synapse Warehouse, you don't even have to bring your data anywhere. If you're working with the Synapse Warehouse, you can just actually right-click on your table and say, how is it called? Enhance my data. What will happen? The automated machine learning will grab your data, train the model, and say, this is what you can do with this data, and these are the forecasts. So you can use this capability really easily. And if your data is already in Fabric, you don't have to bring it anywhere. So it will take this step from you as well. So as soon as you know what questions you want to ask, you just ask it directly to the automated ML, and it already knows where the data is, what to do with this, and you just stuck with the answer. So this is my speech for today. Thank you so much for listening in. So let me read through the chat. What do you like better, R or Python? Do I have a couple minutes to respond?
Exactly. Okay. We have 15 minutes. No issue. You can go. Yeah.
Awesome. I'm so happy I figured out the timing and I got on time. So the R and Python have very different, the whys are they there. I love R for any academic workloads because R is very easy to work with the vectors. So whatever vector mathematics you have to program in, here's R. R is very limited in terms of the open source stuff that we have here, and again, it's purely academic in my opinion. So the Python is more widely represented in open source community. A lot of people writing for this. So if you're comfortable with using the open source libraries, use Python. It was a really hard time for me to get used to the idea. I'm a C++ and C# programmer in the past at my school. So the idea of not having the curly brackets in your code and trying to fix the indentation so many times in Python, it was frightening. But as soon as you know the object-oriented programming, Python is really nice. So I don't think that what I like better, R or Python, is a good question because it's a different why these different languages are here. I personally worked more with Python, but I'm getting very nostalgic when I'm talking about R because there was my school years a long time ago. But yeah, I'm getting nostalgic using R. I used to understand it better when I started in my corporate journey. Hope you like the answer. In what ways does OneLake facilitate the integration of structured and unstructured data, and how this data is utilized with Power BI? That's a cool question. Ilgar, do you want to handle that?
Actually, you touched the one part of this question regarding structured and unstructured data. Well, but I'm not sure, but I think I didn't hear anything about data utilization within Power BI. So we can answer
Yeah,
I mean, you can start with no issue. Yeah.
So yeah, OneLake has the capability of storing both types of the data. The difficulties I have with this is how this data utilized within Power BI. So when it's structured, it's easy, right? It's a table and stuff. When it's unstructured, if it's the JSON format, you know how to work with the Cosmos DB and how to flatten the JSON maybe. When it's unstructured data, how would you use it in Power BI? When it's unstructured, it's probably the recording of the voice or a picture, right? So probably what I would do in the Power BI, I would refer to this AI services integration and work with that. If it's a picture, you can, if I'm not mistaken, you can label the picture in the Power BI, right? But I would honestly try and transform this data using the AI services that are available at Microsoft. For example, if this is the voice recording and you need to create a reporting on the, I don't know, the filler words. So for example, you have a customer service, right? And all the calls are being recorded. So this is the unstructured data. You will have to bring it to somewhat structured to analyze in Power BI, right? So if you're trying to analyze how much time each of your support engineers are spending with the customer, you will have to have some kind of the new table that will represent these different recordings. And these recordings can have the how long it took, how long is the recording, how long was the actual talk with the client, the start and the end. So, and based on this, you will be able to build the analytics. If you have a different task at hand, you might have a task at hand to say, how qualified our engineers are in, let's say, English language. How many filler words do we have? Maybe this is one of the metrics. You want to have the proper English and proper grammar and stuff. So then you would run through the AI resource on Azure that will transcribe, move the spoken language, move the speech into the text on the paper, right? So you transliterate the full speech, and then you can identify what is the language, what was said and stuff, and just automate this whole process. And then you can already build the analytics. How many fillers were we had? How much time did the person wait on the line while the engineer was fixing the issue? Like a lot of the things. But I don't see how you can utilize the unstructured data in Power BI and build a report. Well, I hope I didn't dug myself into the rabbit hole, and I hope this is what was the question about.
That's great. Thank you, Elena. I don't want to make just say feel you tight, but I would like to ask one question. I'm attending AI ML, Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning postgraduate program distantly in Texas, in McCombs Business School, right?
Okay.
So why I'm telling it, it's my question is related to training data. So I would like to ask you, what's your favorite ratio for dividing data into training and testing subsets? Because,
70-30.
Yeah, 70-30, yes. Because I'm also following this ratio, but, you know, I'm posting a lot of questions. You know, I posted this question on one group, but no one is using this ratio. So actually, you know,
I can tell you why.
Why people do not use this one? What's the reason?
It's that's a starter set. It's a starter approach when you don't have enough data, and the 70-30 is really nice one to split your data. But then you have to understand what is the size of your data. So we always use the 70-30 in our again, in Microsoft courses, they always use the 70-30 ratio because we're using the 10K rows, and it's really hard to like go wrong with it. But there is such thing as overfitting, right? When your data is performing really nicely on the test data, not the data, but your algorithm performing on test data really nicely. But then as soon as you show it to the real data, it has it decreases in the I'm starting to forget English a little bit. It decreases the accuracy. So this problem is called overfitting, and the first remedy for this is to reduce the training data and increase the test data. So this is probably why you see most likely people are using 50-50, 60-40 to reduce the overfitting issue. If your data is just too good to be true, is to reduce the data you feed your model to train. What is the usual ratio you see people are using?
I got very interesting answers. Most of them are using, 80-20. And some people said that they were using 50-50 even,
Yeah.
So that was very interesting, answer. So
I have an assumption that people using 80-20 when it's not enough data, and people are using 50-50 when it's the overfitting problem.
Thank you very much, Елена. Спасибо вам большое.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Actually, we have 3 minutes. I think we can end our webinar. So thank you once again for accepting my invitation. It was very informative webinar. And if you can share your materials, at least your presentation in PDF format, I will, in my turn, also share with the people. So,
of course. I will post some of those into the chat here, and I will also posted my LinkedIn into the chat. If you have, or someone who was here, have any questions, I'm usually fast to respond on LinkedIn. I'm a millennial. I always have my phone in my hand. Right. I'll just post the URLs and then disconnect. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. So that's all. Thank you once again. I hope we'll have an opportunity to see you in next years. So thank you once again. Have a great day.
Thank
Bye.
you. You too.
Bye.
I've got some compliments in the chat. Oh my God, so nice. All right.
Yeah, that's good. So people were very attentive. I mean, in my team, how can we tell in English?
They're engaging.
Yeah.
They very engaged. So DP100, yeah, 102, what I referred to, PL 300, and new courses coming up, AI 050. Yeah. Any questions? Just send them to me, okay?
Okay, exactly. Okay.